You've spent your entire life bending over backwards to accommodate people who wouldn't cross a puddle for you. You swallow your words, you suppress your boundaries, and you smile through the disrespect, hoping that eventually your goodness will be rewarded. You've watched people with half your intelligence, half your loyalty, and none of your integrity rise above you. Not because they were better, but because they were willing to do what you were taught was wrong. And somewhere inside you, in a place you don't let anyone see, you already know the truth. Your kindness has not been a gift. It has been a leash. They taught you to be nice because nice is manageable, predictable, and controllable. Society conditioned you from childhood to crave validation, so that manipulators, in your relationships, in your workplace, in your own family, could control you with a single weapon, the threat of taking their approval away. And it worked. For years it worked. But something cracked, didn't it? Something shifted, and that's why you're here. This is not an accident. You didn't stumble on this video because the algorithm was being generous. You found this because you've reached the edge of your patience, of your tolerance, of your willingness to keep playing a losing game. And if you are done being the polite victim in someone else's power structure, then do not look away. Because I'm about to hand you Machiavelli's blueprint for killing the need to be liked and forcing the world to respect you instead. "500 years ago, one of the most ruthless strategists who ever lived looked at the world, the same world you live in today, and saw the exact pattern that's been eating you alive: love, obligation, loyalty. He watched people leverage those things and shatter them the moment it served their advantage. Sound familiar? That is the dark psychology running underneath every relationship, where you gave everything and received nothing. That is the power dynamic no one warned you about. And there's a question buried inside it, a question you were trained to never ask. Why do the people you sacrifice the most for respect you the least? The people you've poured yourself into, the ones you bent your schedule for, dropped everything to help, forgave over and over again. They're the ones who take you for granted the most, and the person who barely gives them anything, who shows up when they feel like it, who never apologizes. That person gets their respect, their admiration, even their fear. That's not a coincidence, and it's not bad luck. That is a law of power dynamics. And by the end of this video, you won't just understand that law, you'll wield it. You'll understand how to stop people-pleasing, how to command respect without saying a word, and how to build the kind of psychological presence that makes manipulation defense unnecessary, because no one will dare try. I'm going to walk you through the Machiavellian strategy that turns anxious accommodation into cold authority. And some of what I'm about to say will make you uncomfortable. It should. Comfort is exactly the cage they built for you. If these ideas resonate with you, hit that subscribe button for more top-tier content. Also, drop a "no more nice" in the comments so I know you're ready. Let's dive in. You think your desire to be liked is natural. You think it's just who you are. A personality trait, like being introverted or liking certain music. It's not. Your need for approval was installed, deliberately, strategically, and for a specific reason. It makes you useful to other people. Think about your earliest memories of being praised. What were you praised for? Sharing, being quiet, not making a fuss, following the rules. And what were you punished for? Speaking up, saying no, putting yourself first, being difficult. You were trained through thousands of micro-interactions across years to associate your self-worth with other people's reactions to you. And now, decades later, that training runs on autopilot. You don't even notice it anymore. Your desire to be liked is the leash they use to walk you. It is not a virtue, it is a vulnerability. And in the world of dark psychology, a vulnerability you're not aware of is the most dangerous kind, because manipulators don't need to study you for months. They just need to figure out one thing, that you need their approval. And the chess game is over before it starts. They know that all they have to do is threaten to withdraw their warmth, their attention, their validation, and you'll do anything. You'll overextend. You'll apologize when you did nothing wrong. You'll shrink yourself to fit inside a box they built for you, and you'll call it keeping the peace. But you're not protecting the peace. You are absorbing the war. Every conflict you swallow, every boundary you don't enforce, every time you say yes when your body is screaming no, that's not peace. That's surrender. And the people who benefit most from your need to be liked will never point this out to you. Why would they? You being agreeable, predictable, and desperate for their validation is the most convenient arrangement they've ever had. Your emotional labor is free. Your loyalty is guaranteed, and your silence, your trained, obedient silence, makes sure nothing ever changes. This is how power dynamics work on every level. In families, workplaces, friendships, relationships, the person who needs approval the least holds the power, always. And the person who needs it the most, they hold nothing. They are held. So be honest with yourself. How many times this week alone, did you modify your behavior, soften your opinion, suppress your real reaction just to avoid someone's disapproval? How many times did you perform a version of yourself that isn't you, just to keep someone comfortable? And did it even work? Are those people respecting you more because of it, or less? That's the trap. The more you chase their approval, the further it retreats. The more it retreats, the harder you chase. That's not a relationship. That's a hamster wheel. And Machiavelli saw it 5 centuries ago. The ones who chase are never the ones who command. But there's a specific mechanism behind this, a reason everything you were taught about earning respect is backwards. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Respect does not flow toward goodness. Respect flows toward perceived power. That is the entire game. And once you internalize this, you will never waste another second trying to earn respect through sacrifice. Think about the people in your life who command the most respect, not the people who deserve it, the people who actually have it. Are they the most generous, the most accommodating, the most selfless? No, they're the ones who are hardest to access. The ones who don't chase, who can walk away from any table and mean it, whose approval you find yourself seeking without even knowing why. Now think about you. You show up reliably, respond immediately, over-deliver on every promise, and forgive things that shouldn't be forgiven. And what has it gotten you? I'll tell you. It's gotten you categorized. You've been filed away in people's minds under comfortable, under safe, under will always be there. And that category is the graveyard of respect. Notice how the people who demand your kindness are the ones who weaponize it against you. They've figured out your pattern. Give, 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 and never demand anything back. And because you never demand anything back, they've concluded, not consciously, but instinctively, that you don't value yourself enough to require it. And if you don't value yourself, why should they, eh? This is dark psychology at its most basic. People don't respect what they can easily have. They respect what they're afraid to lose. People don't respect what they can easily have. They respect what they're afraid to lose. And nobody is afraid to lose you because you've made yourself infinitely available. You've removed all scarcity from the equation. You've told the world through your actions, not your words, that your time, your energy, your emotional labor, and your presence have no price tag. And when something has no price tag, people treat it like it's free, because to them it is. Machiavelli understood something that modern self-help refuses to teach. The architecture of respect is not built with kindness. It is built with consequence, with weight, with the unspoken understanding that crossing you, or taking you for granted, comes at a cost they cannot afford. If they do not fear losing you, they will never respect keeping you. That's not cruelty. That's not manipulation. That is the law of human valuation that governs every relationship you will ever have. And until you accept it, you will keep playing a game with rules that guarantee you lose. But and this matters, simply acting tough will backfire. Trying to fake this by slamming your fist on the table or giving ultimatums you won't follow through on makes things worse. People can smell inauthenticity, and a bluff that gets called destroys more respect than being silent ever could. The answer isn't aggression. It's something much colder, much quieter, and far more effective, a principle Machiavelli considered more powerful than any army. Everything I've laid out so far, the approval trap, the respect paradox, those are symptoms. The engine underneath all of them is what Machiavelli spent his life decoding, and it reaches into places you might not expect, including your own family. Machiavelli's most controversial teaching, the one scholars have debated for 500 years, comes down to a single brutal insight. You've already heard the quote. Now consider what it means for your life. Not as theory, but as strategy. When Machiavelli said it is safer to be feared than loved, he was not talking about terrorizing people. He was not talking about cruelty for its own sake. He was making an observation about the architecture of human loyalty, and the observation was this: love-based bonds are conditional. They exist at the pleasure of the person giving the love. The moment it becomes inconvenient, the moment a better option appears, the moment you can no longer provide what they want, that love evaporates. You've lived this. You know exactly what it feels like. The friend who loved you when you were useful and vanished when you weren't. The partner who loved your stability until something more exciting came along. The family member who loved your compliance until you developed a backbone. Love, in Machiavelli's framework, is a transaction disguised as a feeling, and the moment you stop paying, the moment you stop bending, accommodating, over-delivering, the transaction ends. And so does the love. But fear, and I'm not talking about physical intimidation, I'm talking about psychological weight. Fear is different. When someone understands that you are willing to withdraw completely, that you're capable of walking away without looking back, that your boundaries are not suggestions, but walls, that crossing you carries a real and permanent cost. They don't respect you because they like you. They respect you because the alternative is losing access to you entirely. That is the difference between being liked and commanding respect. Being liked means you've made yourself pleasant enough that people enjoy having you around on their terms. Commanding respect means you've made yourself significant enough that people adjust their behavior on yours. The moment you apologize for existing, you have handed them the crown. So here is the shift. You have to make a decision, a real, non-negotiable decision about what your presence is worth. Not in theory, in practice. Because your behavior communicates that your presence is worth very little. You show up regardless of how you're treated. You stay regardless of how little you're valued. You forgive regardless of how deeply you're disrespected. And that pattern tells everyone around you that there is no price they need to pay, that you are a free resource in their life. A vending machine that doesn't require coins. The dark truth about power dynamics, the one no one wants to face, is that people will always take what's free, not because they're evil, because that's how humans allocate value. We protect what's scarce, we discard what's abundant, and you have made yourself dangerously abundant. But what if you reversed this? What if, instead of being the person who chases, you became the person who withdraws? Not out of pettiness or revenge, but out of the cold, calculated understanding that your attention is a strategic resource, and strategic resources are never given freely. That is the pivot. That is Machiavelli's dark psychology applied to your life. And the method for executing this withdrawal requires something that feels almost impossible for someone trained to be nice their entire life. It requires you to become comfortable with silence, with absence, with the discomfort of other people's unmet expectations. The most powerful tool in Machiavellian strategy is not aggression, not confrontation, not even deception. It is strategic withdrawal, silence, absence. The deliberate removal of your presence, your energy, and your emotional investment from anyone and anything that does not serve your position. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, posting, reacting, arguing, defending, explaining, the person who goes silent becomes the most unsettling figure in the room. Because silence is unreadable, silence cannot be argued with or manipulated, and silence forces other people to fill the void with their own anxiety. When you stop explaining yourself, people start questioning themselves. When you stop chasing, people start wondering what changed. When you withdraw your warmth from someone who took it for granted, they don't just notice, they panic. Because your silence communicates something no words ever could. It communicates that you have options, that you have standards, that you're not dependent, and that you are willing to let them go. Respect is not a reward for good behavior. It is a territory you conquer, and silence is how you plant your flag. Now, this is not the silent treatment. The silent treatment is emotional punishment. It's reactive, it's petty, and it leaks desperation. What I'm describing is strategic emotional control, the Machiavellian practice of only investing your energy where the return justifies the cost. It's not about hurting people, it's about refusing to hurt yourself. Here's how this works in practice. Someone disrespects you. A passive-aggressive comment being taken for granted again, a boundary crossed. The old you would react immediately. You'd explain why it bothered you, try to make them understand, have the conversation, seek resolution. And what that does is tell them their behavior was powerful enough to hijack your emotional state. It tells them they have leverage. It rewards the disrespect with your full attention. The strategist does something far more effective. You observe, you catalogue, and you withdraw. Not dramatically, not with a speech. You simply become less available, less responsive, less warm. You don't announce it, you don't explain it. You just shift, and you let the absence speak. And it works. Not because it's a trick or a game, but because it aligns with how humans assign value. People protect what they fear losing. When your warmth, something they'd come to expect for free, suddenly becomes scarce, the entire dynamic shifts. You haven't said a word, you haven't raised your voice, but you've rewritten the power structure of that relationship through silence alone. And when someone tries to guilt you for your withdrawal, and they will, because manipulators always escalate before they recalibrate, the single most powerful response you can give is not a defense, and not an explanation. It's a calm, unhurried question. Something as simple as, what made you feel entitled to that? And then nothing. You let the question sit in the air, because that question does something surgical. It redirects the spotlight from your behavior onto their assumption. It forces them to justify why they expected your compliance. And most people cannot answer that question without exposing the manipulative framework they've been operating from. That is, manipulation defense at its highest level, not building walls, not arguing, holding a mirror to the people who've been exploiting you and letting them see their own reflection. But implementing this takes more than understanding. It takes an internal shift, because the part of you that wants to explain, that wants to be understood, that wants to be seen as fair and reasonable, that part has been your dominant operating system for decades. And what I'm asking you to do is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it is the single act that separates the person who knows about power from the person who actually has it. Knowledge without application is entertainment, and you didn't come here to be entertained. Everything I've laid out, the approval collar, the respect paradox, the fear doctrine, the silence weapon, those are the pillars. Now I'm going to show you how to build on them, how to take these dark psychology principles and deploy them in the situations that have been eating you alive. Relationships first. Whether it's a partner, a friend, or a family member, the dynamic is the same. You've been the giver, the fixer, the one who holds everything together while getting nothing back. And every time you've tried to address it, you've been told you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, you should be grateful for what you have. Your new operating principle: stop explaining your standards and start enforcing them. The mistake almost everyone makes when setting boundaries is that they announce the boundary and then negotiate it. They say, "I need you to stop doing this." And when the other person pushes back, they soften, they qualify, they add disclaimers. And what the other person hears is not a boundary, it's a suggestion, and suggestions get ignored. From today, your boundaries are communicated through consequences, not words. Someone cancels on you last minute? You don't express disappointment. You don't lecture them about respect. You simply become unavailable the next 3 times they reach out. No explanation, no passive aggression, just absence. And when they ask what's going on, you give them the least information possible. "I've been busy." That's it. The moment you over-explain, you hand them the map to your emotional interior. And that map is exactly what manipulators use to navigate around your defenses. Now, the workplace. This is where people-pleasing will destroy your career. You've been the person who takes on extra work without complaint, stays late while others leave early, volunteers for the tasks nobody wants. And you've watched promotions go to people who do less, but advocate for themselves more. The Machiavellian strategy for commanding respect in professional power dynamics. Stop being indispensable at everything and become essential at one thing. When you're the person who does everything, you're a utility. Utilities are used, not promoted. But when you hold a specific, critical piece of the operation, and everyone knows it, you become irreplaceable. And irreplaceable people don't beg for respect. They command it by the sheer gravity of their position. And this is the part that separates understanding from execution. You have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. Comfortable saying no. Comfortable watching someone struggle when they could have had your help but didn't earn it. Comfortable with the silence that follows when you don't fill it with nervous accommodation. Because they will test you in public. Manipulators always test in public. They know social pressure is the ultimate weapon against a people-pleaser. They'll make a joke at your expense, put you on the spot, challenge you in front of others to see if you fold. The old you folded, laughed it off, swallowed the humiliation, dealt with the rage later in private. The strategist does something different. The strategist pauses, holds eye contact, lets the silence stretch just past the point of comfort, and then, calmly, without heat, delivers one of 2 responses. Either a question that redirects the spotlight. That's an interesting thing to say in front of people. Why did you feel the need to do that? Or even more effective, nothing. Just a look that says, "I see exactly what you tried to do, and I have 0 interest in participating." Then you resume the conversation as if they don't exist. That 3 seconds of controlled silence rewrites the power dynamics of the entire room, because everyone watching saw the challenge, and everyone watching saw that it didn't land, not because you fought back, but because you were so far above it that it didn't register as worthy of your energy. That is what commanding respect looks like in practice, not in theory. In the arena. Now, I want to address the voice in your head. The one that's been listening to all of this and whispering, "This isn't who I am, I'm not cold, I'm not strategic." That voice is the conditioning talking. It's the programming running its last defense protocol. It wants you to believe that being strategic means being cruel, that setting boundaries means being selfish, that refusing to be used makes you a bad person. But has being the good person worked? Has all that niceness, all that accommodation, all those years of bending, has it gotten you the respect you deserve? Has it stopped people from using you? Has it brought you 1 inch closer to the life you actually want? No. and you know it. Because you're here, watching this, looking for the exact thing that being nice could never give you. So give yourself permission. Not permission to be cruel, permission to be strategic, permission to stop paying a price that nobody asked you to pay, but everyone was happy to let you keep paying. Permission to treat your energy, your time, your attention, and your emotional labor as what they actually are, the most valuable currencies you own. And valuable currencies are never given away for free. Calculate the energy you've wasted trying to be liked by people who are never going to like you on terms that include your dignity. Calculate the hours, the years of emotional labor poured into relationships that were never going to be reciprocal. That calculation is not depressing, it is liberating, because it shows you exactly how much power you've been hemorrhaging, and all of it can be reclaimed, starting now. Because this process, this shift from people-pleaser to strategist, doesn't just change how you behave, it changes how you're perceived. When you stop chasing approval, something happens that you can't fake. Your movements slow down, your voice drops, your eye contact steadies. You stop fidgeting, stop over-explaining, stop filling silences with nervous energy. And people notice. They can't articulate what changed, but they feel it. They feel that you've become someone who doesn't need them. And that is the most magnetically powerful energy a human being can project. You will carry yourself in a way that makes people hesitate before they cross you. Not because you threatened them, because something in your stillness told them it wouldn't be worth the cost. That is Machiavelli's dark psychology made flesh. That is the end of people-pleasing and the beginning of psychological warfare on your own terms. You came to this video carrying something heavy, a specific kind of exhaustion that only people like you understand. The exhaustion of being intelligent enough to see through people and too conditioned to act on what you see. The exhaustion of giving your best to people who gave you their worst. The exhaustion of being the person everyone leans on but no one stands up for. And over the course of this video, I've shown you why. Not because you're weak, you've never been weak. You were programmed to believe that kindness is its own reward, that if you just kept giving, eventually the world would recognize your value, that the moral high ground was a destination worth reaching. Machiavelli knew, and now you know, that the moral high ground is just the spot with the best view of your own exploitation, the place where you watch, helpless, as people with less integrity and more strategy take everything that should have been yours. So here is what dies today. The version of you that apologizes for having needs, the version that shrinks to make other people comfortable, the version that explains, over-explains, and then apologizes for the explanation, the version that treats other people's comfort as more important than your own dignity. That version served its purpose. It kept you safe when you were small and powerless and needed the approval of people who controlled your world. But you are not small anymore, and you are not powerless. You are a mind capable of seeing the chessboard. The only thing that's been missing is the willingness to play. From this moment, you operate differently. You speak less and observe more. You promise less and deliver selectively. You stop volunteering your loyalty and start requiring that it be earned. You stop explaining your silence and let it do its work. You stop asking for respect and start making it the only option. This is not about becoming someone you're not. This is about becoming who you were before the world trained it out of you, before the system needed you compliant, before the manipulators needed you cooperative, before everyone around you needed you small. You were never meant to be small. If this hit you somewhere you don't usually let things reach, do something about it. Drop a comment, 2 words, no more nice. Not for me, for you. Because writing it, committing it to text, is the first act of your new operating system, the first time you choose yourself in a public space without apologizing for it. And if you're serious about this, subscribe. Not because I'm asking, because what we cover here is content you won't find anywhere else. This is the only place where dark psychology, Machiavellian strategy, and the hidden mechanics of power dynamics are decoded for minds like yours, not for entertainment, for execution. Every video is another weapon in your arsenal, every concept another wall in your fortress, and the people building here, the ones dropping those comments, the silent strategists sharpening themselves in these ideas, this is an alliance you want to be part of. And whatever you do, don't stop now. In our next transmission, we decode the dark empath, the most dangerous personality type alive, and the one most likely to have been exploiting your niceness from day one. If you think this video opened your eyes, that one will restructure your entire understanding of the people closest to you. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. I'll see you there. See what others miss, know what others fear, become who others can't.